All right, folks, finishing up the notes for Chapter 10 with this video, picking up things with Section 10 of your notes. Let's talk about some scheduling strategies. First off, PBS many times involved in counter-programming against the commercial networks. By studying national Nielsen data, programmers learn the demographic makeup of competing network program audiences so that they can place their programs more advantageously. So with the programming options that PBS has available, they're going to be looking to see how they can attract the most viewers they possibly can. So they're going to figure out what demographics the commercial networks are striving for at various times and try not to put similar programs on at the same time. PBS has traditionally avoided placing important programs during sweeps periods, the times when commercial television throws its blockbusters at the audiences, because again, during sweeps periods, commercial stations are trying to get as many eyeballs as they possibly can because they want the ratings to show in such a way that they can set as high of advertising rates as they possibly can because they can boast the number of viewers that they're getting. PBS, it's a little different in that they know that by and large, they're not going to be able to compete with those different programs available on commercial stations. So they're going to be much more strategic in the way that they show their content. PBS stations demand a solid schedule with a minimum of what are called mission programs. These are narrow appeal programs of interest only to a very small group of viewers. Again, the marginalized ones, the ones that are not getting as much content made available to them because there's just not a lot of interest in the commercial world on broadcast or on cable. PBS has decided to stop using ratings as a rear-view mirror and had begun to state goals for their programs using a formal process that judges primetime programming according to predetermined goals. So they're not trying to get the biggest ratings that they possibly can. They're trying to estimate what the audience is for particular programs, and they want to reach that goal of penetrating a certain percentage of that particular audience. So however many people they think will have an appeal to a certain type of program or a certain type of program, that's how they determine what their success is, not numbers just in and of themselves. As far as stripping and stacking limited series, well, let's define a limited series. They have continuing topics with a fixed number of episodes. It can be anywhere from 3 to 12 episodes. Basically kind of you don't want to use the term mini-series because that means something different, but basically it's a short run of programs under the same title, same theme, and it kind of goes through almost like a mini-series, but we call it a limited series. Limited series that have sufficiently engaging material lend themselves to airing on consecutive nights, which is that strategy of stripping. And this is as opposed to weekly sorts of stripping. Several factors weigh in to whether the weekly or daily approach is going to be used. Number of shows available, the type of content, the levity or heaviness of the content, what sort of appeal, whether people will want to tune in night after night or if it fits more a weekly sort of thing. All those things are part of the determining factor. Now, when a limited series has too many episodes for convenient stripping, PBS bunches them together and they'll stack 2 episodes per evening. And this is a strategy they use as well to be able to get the content in within a certain amount of time and to create a certain appeal for that content with its viewers. Audience flow. New, untried programs especially need scheduling help from a strong lead-in. If there's no idea whether the audience is there, whether there's appeal for it, they're going to try to put that show in such a way that it's going to appeal to an audience based on the type of program that it is, as opposed to the program itself. This is where the Umbrella series comes in. An Umbrella series is an anthology of single programs with loosely related content that appear under an all-encompassing title. These examples, like you see on your screen here, the American Experience, dealing a lot with American history. Great performances, tends to focus a lot on theater and opera. So these one-off sort of things that fit under those types of content will generally be aired as part of those Umbrella series. Now, at the station level, some considerations. A public television schedule is notable for its variety. It's meant to serve the total population over time, but not the complete needs of the individual viewer. In other words, if you're looking for programming content that has to deal with Middle Eastern culture, you're not going to find a huge programming block for Middle Eastern culture in most cases. You will find content that appeals to you, but it's not going to be something that you see continually throughout the program schedule. The idea, again, with PBS is to try to find content that appeals to everybody at least a certain portion of the time, including some of the underserved audiences that are not being served by commercial broadcast or cable entities. Factors considered in maintaining a program schedule include the license type. Each of the licensees that we talked about earlier, they carry unique programming priorities, whether it is a community station that is there to provide programming that is its first and major priority, or whether it's a secondary priority, like in the case of a university or a state-run organization. Audience size and demographics also going to be a consideration. Competition from commercial stations. What are they airing? What can we air that's not going to take our audience as a PBS station away from us? Daypart targeting. In other words, airing programs for various ages at various times throughout the day. PBS stations tend to air a lot of content for children and preteens during the middle of the day. And more towards older children in the afternoon hours, and then going into adult programming into the evenings and on the weekends. Also, program availability. What does the station have available to air, and when can we air that? National promotion. Only a few underwriters include some promotional allotment in their program budgets. Stations will carefully schedule on-air promotion announcements for a particular program in time slots where potential viewers of that program are likely to be found in maximum quantity. So they're going to make sure that the promotion of shows is going to appeal to those that are watching other content at that time. It's that idea of reaching the target audience at the appropriate times that they're actually tuned in and watching. As far as Nielsen data goes, PBS evaluates using both national and local viewing data. Subscription to Nielsen helped PBS to provide data to potential underwriters because even though PBS itself may not necessarily be worried about huge ratings numbers, it is still something that underwriters want to see. PBS tries to schedule a representative mix of PBS offerings during each of the national survey weeks, the sweeps weeks. So instead of trying to pull out the blockbusters, they're going to basically take a little bit of everything that they have and air it during the sweeps periods. PBS does practice some stunting during its pledge drives. It's the idea of trying to appeal to as many in the audience as is possible. So they do care about trying to get higher ratings during those pledge drives periods, because the more people that are watching, the more people that may offer a contribution to their local PBS station. Audience accumulation strategies. Small audiences for individual programs are usually acceptable so long as the weekly accumulation of viewers is large. It's an indication that the public, quote unquote, is using its public television service. So if you have people of a certain cultural group watching a show designed for a certain cultural group, that is a success in the world of public television. If you have shows that appeal to a certain type of interest and people are watching, that is considered a success. An important element in assessing PBS's programming success is its weekly cumulative audience. How many people have tuned in to catch PBS programming over the course of an entire week? Because, again, there's diversified programming. If you count everybody, you're getting numbers as it relates to all walks of life. Average audience ratings. This is a composite rating on various types of genres of programming. So instead of saying that you've got 1 million people that watched Masterpiece Theater, you might say that a station got a million viewers of various types of opera content or various types of theater content. So they're looking at the numbers in terms of types of programming as opposed to individual programs. Loyalty assessment. PBS researchers study audience loyalty or tenacity as a way to measure if a program has engaged viewers, that the audience does not drop over the course of a program episode or over the course of a series. So they are looking to see that they have the viewers to maintain certain types of programming and certain programs in particular. If they are airing all sorts of documentaries on a certain night, and certain documentaries do well, but other ones fall off, that's going to be an indication that PBS may need to relook at something. Demographic composition. PBS has been criticized with the accusation that its appeal is largely to older, educated audiences, creating an underrepresented mix from the other audiences that are out there. There is this sort of feeling that PBS does cater a lot to those that the content might be a little more intellectually stimulating, a little highbrow. So in that case, it doesn't necessarily fully serve the function of public television being television for the public and the public at large and reaching marginalized audiences, where, you know, if you're appealing to those that are more educated, there's the accusation that more educated means more financially stable, and appealing to them might mean higher donations. That has been an argument that is out there. PBS, though, responds that it consciously attempts to provide alternatives to commercial network offerings. Again, providing content that is not going to be readily available from other choices that are out there commercially. Some of the developments ahead, basically a matter of a couple of questions that need to be answered. Can public television continue to grow and develop with less funding and higher demands of quality in a market where specialized populations are looking for content elsewhere? And how will it be funded, and to what extent will it be funded? It wasn't all that long ago that PBS was once again facing possible defunding in part or in whole because of feelings of some of the things that we've talked about in this chapter that PBS has been accused of doing. And public broadcasting as a whole, I should say, not just television, but also radio. And it's something that tends to come up in Washington on a fairly regular basis every several years or so. And as more options become available, whether through cable, whether through new media, the question is going to continue to raise itself. One of the things that public television recently did was in the TV repack, many stations have sold their channel allotments and moved to a channel allotment that might be more difficult for certain people to pick up on their TV sets if they're using antenna to pick up television. A lot of antennas have a really hard time picking up certain channels that are on the VHF band, channels 2 through 13, channels 2 through 6 in particular. And there's been some criticism over that. So all these things coming into play as we continue to look at the role of broadcast television as a whole, and within that, the role of public television, its accessibility, and the value of it as deemed by the people that view it and by the government, which helps to fund some of the operations of public television. Debate continues. What does not continue, though, is Chapter 10. We're done. Finish up your notes and study questions, get them turned in. Check out the questionnaire on Blackboard before we get together to discuss this chapter. Bring your thoughts, your opinions, your questions, and we'll have lively conversation, maybe even a little debate ourselves when we get together to talk about Chapter 10.